KU. It was we were known as the one McDonald's between Kansas City and Lawrence. That's where my town was.
Okay. So the question I have for you, have you ever been to Grandma Horner's?
I have not.
Okay. All right. Are you familiar with what it is or no?
I am not.
Okay. It's kind of like a general store, and I think it's somewhere between Kansas City and Lawrence. It could be west of Lawrence, but Jimmy and I have driven across country a couple times, and that's kind of like one of our stops when we're on I-70. We're like, oh, it's still open. We're gonna pull over. I mean, they have like beef jerky, coffee, candy, like all kinds of stuff, and so we always reminisce about Grandma Horner's on our road trips.
Oh, cool. I'll have to check it out. So I-70 was a little further from where I live. So we have a highway called K10. So I was always on that small
Okay.
interstate back and forth. But I'll have to check it out.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if it was like a well-known thing to is it Kansans? Are you a Kansan?
Yeah, I guess so. Kansan, that sounds good. I'm in Arkansas now, but
Or Kansas.
that sounds about right.
Well, the other question I'm curious about before we get rolling here, I spent some time living in Oklahoma City, and I'm curious because I live down here in South Carolina now, but I'm curious with you being in Arkansas and also spending some time in Oklahoma. Are you in the South? Is it the Midwest? What do y'all consider it where when you were in Oklahoma and now versus when you're in Arkansas or Arkansas?
Well, in Oklahoma, it was the Midwest, and in
Yeah.
Arkansas, you're in the South, baby.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
You have cowboy boots?
I've had cowboy boots my whole life.
Okay.
Cowboy boots, cowboy hat. Um, I thought about wearing it for the show, but I didn't know.
Oh, we would have given you not that you need any help with that, but we would have probably given you a little bit more street cred with it. Are you like an Air Force One type of coach or having worked with Coleman, or do you rock the cowboy boots for the matches?
I rock the cowboy boots for the matches, and then on away trips, I'll wear like whatever our team shoes are this year. Um, so I yeah, you asked the wrong guy. I think they're Air Maxes. I'm not sure.
Okay,
I think that's what they. But boots are more my style for sure.
right on.
So, Coach, before we hopped on going live, we mentioned that we had Joey on last year, and we found him on YouTube. We were also following Caden Henshaw, who's the Division II wrestler who does the video vlogging on YouTube. Curious to how you feel about Joey vlogging and putting that stuff up. Was that ever an issue with you, or starting a new program? Did you see that as just an avenue to get eyes on the program?
Well, I was absolutely a proponent for him starting the vlog. I wasn't necessarily a fan of everything he posted, and we definitely had conversations about that. But that's part of letting an athlete mature is letting him make decisions, and when he makes mistakes, try to correct them and keeping him between the lanes. And so I'm always a proponent of athletes building their brand, building a product, learning to be entrepreneurs in that way. I just think that there's certain ways to do it, and I try to encourage them not to go for the shock value, but to have value in the content. So
Was there any content that you wouldn't mind sharing here that you were like, hey, don't post that, or hey, you got to take that down?
well, he caught me with my shirt off one time. My love handles were hanging out. I was like, that's not cool, dude. But I think for the most part, it was pretty good. I always tried to encourage him that you don't have to have foul language to be cool. You don't have to have, that shock value type attitude to get followers. Yeah, it'll get you short time clicks, but I was trying to encourage him like, if you really want to open up what it's like to be a D1 wrestler in the day in the life, then let's be real about it and not try to go for the things that are quick, but let's build value in the content of what our lives are really like, and those are some of the brief conversations we had.
Right.
So, Coach, you guys have had great start to the season so far. I believe you're 12-5 right now, and you just beat Cal Poly for the first time, and you also have wins over perennial powers Arizona State and Oregon State this year. Is the 12 wins this year more than the other previous seasons combined? Or close
Yes,
to it?
once
Yeah.
yeah, once we reached, I think the number was 9 or 10. We had matched our total win total over the last 4 years. So definitely something we were proud of. And, we're not ashamed of where we came from. We started from scratch, man. And doing that is, when we went to Carolina or, Coleman and I, we felt like we had a big task in our hands. But when you start from scratch, that task is multiplied in so many different directions. And so we're definitely not ashamed of where we've come from and how far we've come. And I think the cool part is, like, you're bringing up Joey. Those were guys that were there at the beginning when we didn't win one Division I duel our first year, and we won one our second year, and one our third year, and like five our fourth year. So yeah, it definitely matched our total, and we were proud of where we came from.
Yeah, we saw I think it was after the Arizona State match, they had you your post-match speech, and I sent it to Jimmy, and that sort of stuff just really gets us fired up. So curious, how are the guys handling? Are you keeping them humble and keeping them in check that there's still a lot of the season left to go?
I mean, 100%. This is something that, you know, you're trying to teach them how to be successful in the beginning, and then they have a little success, and you're trying to teach them how to be winners now, and how to manage that, and how to manage those emotions and the highs and the lows. And I think they learned a pretty good lesson at Stanford. We were riding a pretty big high. We were, I don't know, 6 or 7 match win streak, and that's more than our highest season total ever. And I think that they were just emotionally drained from trying to learn to manage that. And I think after Stanford, that was a good lesson, and it was a real positive, because we came back and the energy against Cal Poly was just awesome. And then, today, I mean, it's Monday. We wrestled Cal Poly on Saturday, and we had probably one of our best practices we've had in a long time. And so I think that they learned a little bit of a lesson, and it's given them the ability to see and understand that if we don't protect our energy, if we don't protect the attitude and the things that really make us us, that we can fall pretty quick, and it can disappear.
Coach, I before I get going, I got to give a shout out to Jason Bryant because he's done a lot of great coverage on the team, and we're gonna reference that a lot because we use that a lot for our research for this podcast. And going through the seasons, you guys obviously have been getting a little bit better every year, and the mindset has to change. And last year, you guys, had some really close duels and some close one-on-one matches, but you weren't quite there yet, but you knew you were there. And you had to kind of appreciate those little victories, even though they were losses, because you were seeing improvement. But you had mentioned coming from Oklahoma State, where you're always trying to compete for a national title, it's hard to kind of have that mindset. So how have you been able to change the mindset on the go as you see these little victories, and now the tide's turning and you're on the other side of things where you're winning these big matches?
Well, first off, big shout out to Jason Bryant. I mean, he's our adopted media guy, announcer. He did the Rocked Up podcast for us, which was documenting. I mean, it's a really cool, fascinating piece where he documented the entire process up to Little Rock, and that really started when they started wrestling in Arkansas, 14, 15 years ago. And so, a huge shout out to him. Really helping them change their mindset started because we were, like you said, there were so many little moments. We were so close that unless you're there and you're immersed in it, you don't always see it. It might feel close to you, but we were so close in so many different ways. And I'd always tell them, especially last year, like that duel came down to little moments, and we didn't win the little moments. And so a big mindset shift for us was really based around the fact that, like, there's when you limit yourself to one moment to win a match, the margin of error is very small. And when you enlarge that moment and you make a bunch of little moments that we compete a certain way and we focus on certain things, the margin for error is very, very big. And so one of the ways that we helped change that mindset was we've tried to take pressure off them that we're trying to win or we're trying to be, you know, a dual team with so many wins, and we focused on how many points are we going to score in this duel. And so we kind of came up with a cool little point system for our guys. Obviously, however many match points you get, that's how many you score for the team. You get a pin, you throw 10 on top of it. You get bonus points, you throw some extra points in there. And so it gave them the mentality to go out, and I'm not really competing just to win this match. I'm competing to score points for my team, right? And we have goals. And I think we coupled that with the mindset of that when we go out to compete, we're not competing necessarily just for the win and loss of that moment, but we're competing for something bigger. And that really gave him a lot of freedom. And then and then to kind of top it off, we gave him the freedom to understand that I don't care about whether you win or lose. I care how you win. I care how you lose. What happened in that process of that match from the minute the whistle blew till it was over, and how did you compete? And I think Nasir Bailey said it best to me. We were at Tiger Style, which was our first real big event of the year, and he goes out and he wins it, and he beats he beats the guy from Missouri and gets his first ranked win. And he was telling me this just last week. He was like, "You guys giving me the ability to not worry about the outcome completely freed me up to wrestle to win and to wrestle to score a lot of points." And that's really the mindset shift that we've taken this year was we're going to stop focusing on the wins and losses and start focusing on the things that get us to there. And we're going to really, really encourage him in that way.
So there were some underlying things you said there that I want to bring up. You mentioned about focusing on the moment. You mentioned about how you win, how you lose. Those are things that have to do with stuff besides the high crotches and the outside singles. I'm curious, are you guys taking time focusing on mindset? Or you got the guys journaling, you got them focusing on some kind of meditation practice? How are you kind of honing in those little moments and acting right in those times where things aren't going right?
Yeah, well, I think we do a lot of things like we call resetting ourselves. And we talk about these moments in the middle of practice where, hey, this is a moment where we got a late takedown. We're coming back to the middle. Let's reset and focus on the things that matter right now. There's 30 seconds left in this period. I want to finish this period strong. And so we don't necessarily take to the journaling, but we talk a lot about filtering, filtering the moments and filtering and processing those moments. And how do we control what we can control now and have 100% effort and output of what we have right now, which is what we call mental toughness. If you can give 100% of what you have in the moment, that makes you mentally tough. And how do we take that and we're going to focus on scoring the next point in this moment? And the next point is not always a physical point. Maybe it's riding your opponent out. At the end of the period, I'm all over the guy. I get it stalling in the first period. And so we talk about a lot of those little things to help condition their mind to not have to necessarily think, but we're just reacting in the way that gets us to where we want to be. So we have a lot of time, like a lot of conversations, a lot of talks, a lot of short time goes where we're giving them different scenarios that they have to wrestle through, and it's something that has really helped us a lot. So it's not as cool as we have a mindset coach or we journal, everybody has notes, but more just everyday conversations and thought processes that we really try to hammer in their head.
Coach, has there been a specific moment between the end of last season and to where we are now where, maybe like you said, you just had your best practice today or Monday today. Okay. Was there a specific moment where you said to Javi and maybe some of the other people like, okay, I noticed we jumped that level, Was there anything like that, or has this just kind of been like a slow building process from last season through the summer and into the fall?
I think we felt like we were so close at the end of last year, and not getting the guy to nationals was it hurt. It hurt a lot of the guys, and um, we talked a lot about being professionals. Like it was time to stop being young boys and start being men who are here competing for a reason. And when I saw them start training in freestyle and the way that they, we had kind of given them all custom nutrition plans. Our goal was to not necessarily get bigger and stronger, but be leaner and put on muscle mass. And we challenged them to be professionals in a lot of different ways, in the way that they thought about what they were doing and the things that were going on. And so I started to see that shift. And then, we had a heck of a world team trials, and I was like, holy smokes, like we're coming on strong. Like I don't know where this came from, but they've really embraced this professional mindset. But the preseason training was sharp. Our guys were able to pick things up really fast. We weren't spending a lot of time in the preseason of just like, hey, put your head here and do this and do that. Like we were giving them 4 areas a day that we would work on, and we'd take 15 minutes and we would spar them out. And it was like watching just growth, or growth in motion. I don't want to say poetry because that sounds stupid to me, but it was like growth in motion, right? Like you could just see them developing and maturing. And I think what really solidified that we were different when we went to Drexel to wrestle Drexel and Clarion, and we wrestled lights out. I mean, we scored a massive amount of points against tough teams that are just, tough PA teams that you don't just walk into their house and put up 40 points on the board in a duel and not be pretty good, right? And at that moment, I looked at Coach Javi and I was like, this is a special moment. And I don't know why, but what we just did was really cool, and we did it the hard way. We didn't do it and like we got 4 pins because we high flyered 3 people and snaked someone to their back and pinned them, right? Like we went out, we earned every point, we broke our opponents, and and the reality is we absolutely dominated. And I don't mean that disrespectful to the other team, but I mean we dominated them. And at that moment, I knew something was different about our team. And I think we're even a different team now than we were then. I think we're already more mature because they have been just absolutely wanting to feel that right there. They have been wanting to feel that moment when they busted through and they beat, some guys that were tough dudes. And but they wanted that feeling of breaking someone, of excelling in all those moments that we talked about. And it was just like rocket fuel, just right into our veins, and just really, really energized us. And in that moment, I was like, I don't know what it is, but we're different.
It's almost like the shark in the water where he smells blood, you know. I mean, you get that one, like you said, that one big win that put 40 points up on a PA team, and then that momentum starts to shift and starts to build. And now you got yourself a top 20 program. First time in school history for you guys to be ranked, I believe. Um, are you guys the big dogs on campus now?
I mean, I'll say we're the highest ranked team on campus. We got some teams that have done some pretty cool things. Our golf team was like top 15, a couple years ago. The women's basketball coach is the third win in this basketball coach in NCAA history. And so there's some cool programs here that have done some good things, but we definitely are the highest ranked team, and we're definitely basking in it, right? And it's fun. It's fun to walk around campus with your head high and not be the program that's new, not be the program that almost got there. So to say we're the big dogs, I'm not sure, but I think a lot of my guys probably feel that way for sure.
Yeah, yeah. It's a good way to carry yourself as long as it doesn't get too much in their head. But I'm assuming at this point now, though, that people when they see Little Rock wrestling, they don't say, "We have wrestling here."
It is still happening, honestly. I'm not gonna lie, but it is also a thing where we've been in restaurants since we beat Arizona State. and there's random people going, "Hey, you guys wrestle so and so on this date. I can't wait to come." And I don't know who they are. And it's awesome because I remember when I was a freshman walking into Stillwater, Oklahoma, and I go to my first restaurant, and this older couple were like, "Hey, you're Neil Erisman. You're from DeSoto, Kansas. You were a cadet national champion, blah, blah, blah." And it was like, wow, this is stinking cool. Well, I felt that for the first time at Little Rock, and we've probably been in 3 different restaurants since then, and there's always someone who knows who we are, and the local radio stations are. I mean, we've had more radio stations at our room in 1 month than we have in 5 years, right? And TV stations, and it's just been it's been a really cool thing to watch a shift of people who knew we existed or didn't know we existed, and now they know who we are and what we're doing. And when you're talking about that in Little Rock, Arkansas, like in Jersey, that's normal. Like you guys have grown up, you've known wrestling, but that's not normal in Little Rock. And it's a really cool thing because you're surrounded by Razorback fans. Like this is SEC country, man. Like this is big time football, big time basketball, big time baseball, and to be in the conversation. And I think we're the highest ranked team in the whole state, maybe outside of Arkansas baseball. We're taking a lot of notice to the community.
So getting that notice and being the highest ranked team in the state 5 years ago, 6 years ago, did you see yourself in this position? Was this farther down the pipeline, or did you know in 5 years you could turn it around and be top 25?
Well, I think there's a difference between knowing and creating a standard or expectation based on what you believe about yourself and what you can do. A really cool thing for us in my 5 year goals, the last one that we had to check off was to be top 25 in 5 years, right?
All
Like
right.
that was the last goal. I think it was like 18 different goals that I had for year 5. Like I wanted to have back-to-back top 25 recruiting classes, and we did that. I wanted to raise X amount of money. And then, it was so on and so forth. But being top 25 was a goal and something I said that we could do. I'm not gonna lie, there was times I was like, that goal is not attainable right now. That doesn't even look like it's in sight, right? But you kind of just stayed the course, and um, you know, God's good. Even when we were getting our head kicked in, there was a lot of good moments that happened, and we stayed true to who we are, and it paid off.
Having two top 25 recruiting classes and being notable there. I noticed that you said that you tell recruits when they're coming in, hey, your spot's not safe. We're going to constantly recruit because we have to build this team. And if there's someone at your weight that we can get, we're going to bring them in. It's going to make the team better. It's going to make you better. How do you stay so open? How do you not get attached to certain kids knowing, hey, that's my guy. He's put some time in, bringing someone in that might knock him out of the lineup. Have you had issues with that, or them coming in? Do they know, hey, this I'm gonna have to fight every day for my spot, so this is what it's gonna be?
Yeah, I mean that is hard, but I think that the best statement I've ever heard. People want to follow leaders who are real, not right. And I'm not trying to say the right thing to these kids. I'm trying to say the real thing. And the real thing is, if you go to any program that wants to be successful, you're going to have some competition at your spot, either at your weight or around your weight. And if you want to be successful, you have to have that. And I'm not saying there's not situations where you can go and be the guy and not be successful. I'm not suggesting that, but I'm just a big believer that if you're competing and you're sharpening on each other every single day, uh, you're going to get better. And so, that was one of the 3 things that we focus on every day is we have great relationships. That's number 3, right? The first one is we live and wrestle for something bigger than ourselves. 2 is we control the things we can control on a daily basis, attitude, effort, accountability. But number 3 is relationships. And that goes much deeper than just competing against each other, right? As a coaching staff, our relationships is we take the time every single day. We call it take the time. I speak to every athlete. We find out what's going on. Even if it's just a short 30-second conversation, we make sure that every athlete feels valued, and we make sure that they understand their value on the team. And I've been very attached to guys that didn't make the team or lost their spot. But the reality is that their value to me is not attached to whether or not they're winning wrestling matches. Their value is, are you living out, having grit? Are you, what are you living for in your life? Like, what is that solid foundation? Because wrestling ends one day. What are you going to do? And are you controlling the things you can control every day? And so when you don't attach it to the outcome, and you have very clear cut, distinct ways that you're going to make the team, and you got to do X, Y, Z, or you're not going to be the guy, and it's not attached to how I feel about you. It really puts onus on the athlete to step up every day and say, if I don't take care of what I'm supposed to take care of, someone else is going to. And the reality is that I might have a choice today. I can choose to do the right things, or I can choose to take the day off. But that's a real choice. But the reality is there is no choice. You got to show up every day and do what it takes, or someone else is going to. And we try to teach them that. We try to teach them that for longevity. This is not just about wrestling. Like, if you show up every day with the right reasons and the right priorities at your job, and you outwork, everybody in this room, you're going to find success. If you don't, then you better be okay with somebody being your boss. You better be okay with someone telling you what to do. And if you're not, then do something about it. And so that's really the message that we have with our guys is, you better expect to compete, because when you move into the real world, you're going to have to compete. You're going to have to fight and scratch and claw to have a great podcast, right? To get people to watch you. It doesn't matter what it is. It takes that type of mentality wherever you're at. And I could probably go on and on and on forever. So sorry, I'm kind of wordy, but
No, you could
I get
keep
fired
going,
up about
Coach.
it.
I'm ready to put the shoes on right now for you. You got me fired up, man.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean that's I came down here to South Carolina to take over a wrestling program, and that was one of the big things I said to the kids and the parents last year was, I'm here to make you better men and teach you how to navigate through life. If we become better wrestlers and we win wrestling matches along the way, then that's an added bonus. But I'm here to teach you how to be men. And so like you said, sometimes it's going to be real. It's not necessarily what you want to hear, but it's going to be what you need to hear. So I appreciate you, you know, saying those things and having that sort of mentality. I also saw something recently. It might have been a basketball coach, but it was something along the lines of, my job is to find someone to replace you, and your job is to work your tail off to not allow me to find someone to replace you.
absolutely. I heard the same thing. And I had that same conversation with my 11-year-old who is odd man out on his basketball team. He's like, I don't get to start. And I'm like, look, your coach's job is to make sure that he finds someone to replace you, and your job is to give him a reason not to. So if you don't want to be the sixth man, then get your butt in the gym and start, shooting some free throws. I'm not a basketball guy, buddy, but I can help you work hard. So I had that exact conversation with my son yesterday.
And Coach, talking about those two top 25 recruiting classes, you got a very, you've got kids from the South, which is great. You want to build up that homegrown talent. You've got guys from the Midwest, you got guys from out West. Jimmy and I are curious, what can we do to help facilitate, get some Jersey guys down to Little Rock for you?
Man, we would love some Jersey guys. That would be awesome. I think just continuing to pump the word about who we are. I think the best thing that we do is we recruit to the things that we value, and we stay true. We try to stay very true to it. And so just, getting the word out about our program. And the problem with you going to Jersey, them coming from Jersey to Little Rock, they pass half the wrestling teams in the country, right? And so there's a lot of options. And I think that the first Jersey person who can come here and really see and understand, um, could really, really open up an avenue and a pipeline to Little Rock. And I think that they would see the value in it and see that we're in a metropolitan city. Most people probably from the Northeast think Arkansas. They think banjos and no teeth, and maybe Burt Reynolds floating down a river. I don't know, but that's but I think if they could really see that it's a metropolitan city, and you do have the outdoor life, which is unbelievable. It's called the natural state for a reason. But it's a cool place where you had the best of both worlds, and I just believe the first person that does it, everybody's going to want to come.
Yeah, we got to get you tied into some South Jersey guys because I think that would be a good crossover from coming from South Jersey, maybe like that Philadelphia area. We still get that metropolitan feel, but yeah, they like the outdoors and stuff, and it would be a good fit. And I think why why stay someplace where the weather's not that it doesn't get cold in Little Rock, but it's probably a little bit more mild of a winter than New Jersey for sure.
Yeah, I mean it was rough today. It was like 65 degrees here, so it was a pretty tough day. You guys know my boy Troy Howman?
For South Plainfield, right?
Yeah,
Yeah. I know the name. I don't know him personally, but I know the name.
gotcha. Well, he was with me when I was at Carolina, so I got to spend a lot of time with him. Good dude.
You're muted.
Can you hear me, Rich?
Yeah, now I can.
I Sorry about that. My headphones were going crazy. But talking about trying to find someone to replace the guys and always recruiting, and sometimes you're not going to start. I heard you speak on talking about when the program was getting going, you kept in contact with kids that maybe dropped off the team or dropped out of the school, and you kept in contact with them. I'm curious to if you're still talking to guys that don't make the cut and what the mindset is behind that. Because before we got on the podcast, Rich and I were talking, and I was talking about coaches that I had that out of sight, out of mind, and Rich was saying to me, "Hey, that's a maturity thing, when you get a coach that's more about wins and losses, those are the coaches you're still going to keep contact with." So I'm just curious to what the mindset is for you to keep contact with those kids.
Well, I think first, and I'm not going to say this is a flaw, but this is very much that something that comes back to bite me a little bit is that I care a lot about who they're going to be when they leave here, right? And the things that they stand for, and do they have an identity in who they are? And so there's just been some, I haven't been in contact with every athlete that has left here, but I've been in contact with a lot. We had a lot of attrition in the beginning, so unfortunately more than I wanted. So to be able to stay in contact with all of them, I don't know if that's reasonable, but there's a lot of guys that I still check up on, some that have gone to lower divisions, some that have graduated. And, you know, I, I look these mamas in the eye and I tell them I'm going to take care of them. And when it doesn't work out, I feel a sense of responsibility to at least make sure they're going in the right direction. And we've had some very unfortunate situations, guys make some poor choices and they were no longer on the team that I'm really close with. And I recruited them for a reason. I cared about them. And I don't really see why you can't check in to make sure that they're doing all right. And yeah, I'm not perfect with it, but I do have some relationship with guys that are off the team. And, the other mindset is, you never know when you're going to be able to make an impact. And so if the impact is only in wrestling, then you're only focused on the wins and losses. But when your impact, you're trying to guide people to, I mean, for me, I mean, candidly, like I'm trying to make them followers of Christ, at least do my part, right? And if I'm not focusing on that, I always find myself saying the wrong thing, doing the wrong thing, not not treating them how I should treat them. And so I just try to keep that mindset that like there's something bigger than wrestling. And if I can help them, on that path, at least be, plant a seed or water the seed or, take care of the plant, like whatever my role is in the time. I want to try to do that. So even when guys leave here, I try to check in with them, once every 6 months, once a year, at least just to make sure they're doing all right. And you never know who's struggling, right? You never know when that moment happens because they were on your heart and you picked up the phone and you texted them or you called them and what could have happened in that moment and how it could have helped them. And in the end, I just don't want to get to heaven and look God in the eyes and say, no, I didn't tell him, you know, and I think that's a big piece of it.
Coach, I appreciate you sharing that. I think that's huge. I think we need more coaches like you out there that are concerned about the bigger things besides just the getting the hand raised. Did this kid win for me? Because I've been in situations where I've reached out to people or people reach out to me, and sometimes that's the life raft that someone needs in that moment. And there's a reason they were on your heart. So I really appreciate you sharing that perspective. And going back to there being more than the wins and losses. There's more than the takedowns and the stuff on the mat. One question that we ask all coaches when we have on here is, you always hear the coaches say there's more than what goes on the mat, and a lot of coaches try to run their program like a CEO and kind of delegate. So I'm curious to how you do that at your program. How do you delegate? What do you focus on? What do you kind of let the assistant coaches focus on? What are some of the main things that you're working on right now?
Yeah, so right now I'm working on the fact that I might have a couple All-Americans and there's going to be some people trying to poach them. I mean, let's just be honest. I actually had a meeting about that today, but um, I've delegating. Holy smokes, that was a really hard thing for me. I'm still young, but I was the youngest head coach at the current time, not ever, when I got hired, and I was the youngest coach for a few years, and um, I think having Mr. Hatcher, who helped put up the money for our program, and talking to him about, hiring employees, like he has a full process of hiring employees that he taught me. And, he was like, you gotta let them make mistakes. Like you gotta let them learn. And as long as they're doing it with the right effort and the right mentality, like you can get through whatever it is. And so, I've delegated a lot of the things that I'm not uh, talented in. Um, for instance, like I'm a great, I can hype someone up. I can think big picture. I know how to get the work done. I know how to like put boots on the ground and make it happen. Um, but I'm not necessarily the best planner or the best organizer, right? So I've tried to delegate some of those, my non-strengths away to people who are strong. I've tried to um, take on responsibilities that are more long term for our program, and to manage the things that are right now by letting other people give their opinions and their thoughts, and then kind of filling in the gaps, or saying, I think we're going in the wrong direction, but I trust you. Let's go for it. So delegating is something that's very hard for me. Um, but it's something that I've worked really hard on, and because of it, our program has grown drastically quickly.
Coach, you mentioned Mr. Hatcher, Greg Hatcher, how influential he's been with the program, and also listening to the Rocked Up podcast. Sounds like he's pretty much the godfather of wrestling in Arkansas, and it was pretty impactful and instrumental in getting the whole thing started. And again, coming from Jersey, where wrestling is kind of life, and there's probably more wrestling clubs than there are Starbucks. Um, I think Jason said it wasn't until like maybe '06 or '07 that high school wrestling got sanctioned in the state. How impactful has he been? Does he come to the home matches? Is he a big supporter and coming and cheering on with you guys? Does he have a locker in the locker room kind of thing?
Well, I wouldn't say locker in the locker room. He's a busy man, but
Yeah.
he's 100% involved, and he's here a lot. Um, Honestly, he's more of my friend than anything. He is someone that we go on vacation with every summer, and we spend time with, and he's extremely involved. His problem is, he like myself, he has a lot of his own kids, and so he finally just had his last kid, his son, graduate college, and so he's been at the last few duels. He's fired up about it. He's been a huge supporter in a lot of other ways. Like he comes and speaks to the guys and tells them, here's what I looked for when I was building a business. He takes us to his lake house and lets us hang out, for the weekend. Make sure that we're, on team trips, that we get to go do that. So his support hasn't necessarily been as hands-on as one might think, but he's always been there. He's always been, whether it be in the background or helping the guys with certain projects, and he's very hands-on with that.
And there's also a pretty well-known wrestler that I believe lives in Little Rock too, one of the greatest in NCAA history. Does Mr. Pat Smith ever make an appearance in practice?
Oh, heck yeah. I had lunch with him today. Pat, my kids and Coach Smith's kids go to school together, so I see him almost every day. He's made a big impact on me. He's a big encourager. He's a really great coach of people. Just the way he handles people. My son wrestles at his club, and now I'm a kids club coach too, right? Thanks, Coach Pat. I appreciate you. Um, but he's been a big impact on a lot of our guys' lives, in a lot of different ways. I have several guys who are Catholic, and they go to church with him every Sunday, and they spend time with him every Sunday. And imagine just to get into, if you listen to the Wrestling Changed My Life podcast about, Pat Smith and the Smith family, listening to Pat Smith, it fires you up, it encourages you, and it really talks a lot about what it takes to be successful and his story that not everybody knows is going on in the moment. And you look at the things that he's talking about, and you're like, man, that is what it is. That is what it takes. And he's been a big impact in that way. And he's a big time encourager, and he's one of my biggest fans, and I'm definitely one of his biggest fans.
Coach, bringing up that you're going to have some All-Americans coming up this year and you're going to have some coaches trying to poach them. What are you doing to keep those guys? Is that more of an administrative thing, getting those guys more money? Is that more of, hey, let's get you rooted here so we can build this program? What are going to be the key components of keeping those guys?
Well, I think first off, just we have a great culture here. We have a great team atmosphere, so that's great. But just showing them that they're valued, and showing them that what they've done here is super special, and letting them know in various ways that they're important. And we're trying to put together an NIL collective for wrestling. We'll see how that goes. That's not as easy as it sounds, right? Everyone thinks you can just go get someone. Yeah, it's not that easy when you have a state where wrestling's brand new. I have 7 alumni, and they're all only been out of college 2 years, and none of them hit the jackpot lottery yet. So it's not as simple as that, right? So really trying to build ties in the communities and show the value of our student athletes and the things that they bring, and what they're doing is special, and it's like nothing else in the state, and that we're hot right now. And if you want to be a part of something special, I mean, holy smokes, you guys seen the new the movie on Prime, Air, about how they signed Michael Jordan?
Yeah.
If not, you got to watch it. I mean, it fired me up. It was awesome. But that's how I want them to view us. Like, you bet on Little Rock, you bet on Little Rock athletes, you're not going to be disappointed. It's going to be something special and something new. And so that's what we're trying to get out. That's the message we're trying to get to the community, and it's being well received.
All right. And bringing up that, you only have 7 alumni and they have only been out of school for 2 years. A lot of things that we talk about coaches with are kind of how they set guys up, for coming out of school. So I'm curious, like networking, internships, stuff like that, if you have anything like that lined up. And for guys that maybe might be from New Jersey that are listening to this podcast looking for schools to go to next year, what is Little Rock known for education-wise? What are some of the top majors at the college?
Well, we have over 60 undergraduate majors. We have a wide variety of academics. We're the capital city school, so we're right here in the heart of the capital. Anything from business, to finance, and everything in that area, engineering, information technology, construction management. We actually have the state's best nursing school. So and then anything in the medical field, we can 100% accommodate. And we have I think 6 different hospitals tied to our university. Our acceptance rate of going through and getting a biology degree and getting into med school is like 90 something percent. So we're very much a school that is built to fund the city and support the city. And the cool thing about Arkansas is we house major corporations. Everybody knows Walmart, but Tyson Chicken, JB Hunt, Stevens Inc. I mean, Hatcher, the Hatcher agency is like the second or third largest producer of insurance in the country. And so the opportunity here is it is endless because this is a small state with not a lot of people, but a lot of business going on, a lot of opportunity. The cost of living here is unreal. I'm not even going to tell you what my house costs. You'll probably just sell it right now and move to Arkansas. But
We've already talked about it.
but it is a place of opportunity, and it's like one of the 6 states left that you can come and actually, own a piece of property and buy within a reasonable cost, and not just be completely upside down for the rest of your life. So it's quickly climbing up the young professionals list, and it's growing drastically. And if you want to be a part of something that's brand new and the first and special, and you can be that person who cut your own path to the top of the mountain and then stay and build a life here, it's doable, man. Like, it's sustainable. It's not something that you go there and you have to leave because you can't afford, or there's not a lot of opportunity. Like, it's a hidden gem. And I'm afraid that too many people are watching this and going to come take advantage of it. Yeah, but it's definitely a really awesome place.
Well, I'm not gonna lie, Coach, when I was listening to Rocked Up and you were talking about, what was going on in Arkansas, the stuff that you guys can do there, and then you mentioned the honey ham, the hams that you guys do every Christmas. I text Rich at that moment. I'm like, yo, when are we moving to Arkansas, dude?
Come on, we got a spot for you, man.
And bringing up the hams, you guys still do that every Christmas, every holiday season?
I wish all my guys were here to answer this question, because the running joke is whenever we talk to a new person, or whatever the situation is, some person comes in, they're always like, "Did you ask them if they're going to buy a ham this year?" It doesn't matter what time of year it is. They're excited about it. Heck yeah, we still do hams. We sold 650 hams this year. We donated 250 to families across Arkansas that desperately need it. There's a large, I think it's like 30 something percent live below the poverty line in Arkansas. And so, being able to feed 250 families for Christmas, you're not just feeding them for Christmas. I mean, this is a 10-pound ham. You can eat this for 2 weeks straight, right? And just to be able to bless people with that is unreal. And I think it gives our guys a sense of gratitude in what they're doing. Make no mistake, I think they hate selling hams. Like, it's the one thing they don't look forward to every year. But at the end of the year, when we go and donate, and we see all the kids and all the families and all the elderly that we're helping out, it's more than worth it.
Yeah, that's huge. That's so impactful. One of my most memorable Christmases is when I donated my Christmas day, and I worked at the for the food pantry, the soup kitchen at the convention center in Oklahoma City. I mean, that was just you want to feel good about yourself, help other people. And so to know that you're doing that and helping other people, and giving the gentleman that experience is huge, because I think a lot of times you don't necessarily, not that it doesn't maybe go on at other schools or other universities with their wrestling programs or other athletic programs, but you don't always hear about it. So I think that's a great life experience that you're giving to them, as much as they might have to not like selling hams, but you're also giving them good sales experience too. So it's a win-win.
Heck yeah, they get a lot of sales experience. I promise you that. Ask me about my hams. We have shirts with QR codes that say "Ask me about my hams,"
Uh,
and we wear and I make them wear them around town. It's pretty funny.
that's awesome.
Amazing.
That's awesome. Coach, I got one last one before we get into the Final Four. If Jimmy's got one too, but we've mentioned a couple times on here your faith, and I know it's come up with Jason and some other podcasts, and that's something that resonates with Jimmy and I at different levels. But I'm curious, with that being such a huge part of your life, is that a topic of conversation that comes up with the recruits, and who you're bringing in and who you're recruiting, and what they're looking for, and what their faiths are?
Yeah, we get it a lot, because our values are biblically based, you know, value system that I created when I was by myself. when I was talking about, how we're going to recruit and the type of people we're trying to build, and really what we want the direction of this program to go, because we're all going to run a race, and we want to, we don't want to run a race aimlessly. We want to run it for a purpose. And so it comes up a lot, and uh, candidly, I don't shy away from it. I'm not shy about it. I don't shove it down your throat. I don't force it upon you. I don't say, if you don't believe, you can't come here. I mean, I invite people of all backgrounds to come be a part of our program. But it is definitely something that comes up a lot, and we're just very real about it. Like, hey, this is who we are. This is what we stand for. And if you resonate with that, then we'll probably be a good fit.
Excellent. And I think it's something that you're starting to see more and more of. I know it's probably a big part of the culture at Penn State. And I think that, wrestling in itself is a large part of that mindset. And I think it's good for kids to have that outlet and to have that connection, and even getting to go to Sunday Mass with Pat Smith. That's pretty epic. I probably would have. Jimmy and I were raised Catholic, so I think if I would have known I could have gone to Mass with Pat Smith every once in a while, that would have made a difference from my experience.
Well, I'll tell you what, you come to Arkansas and you come on a Sunday, I guarantee you can go to Mass with Pat Smith, because he'll be there.
Excellent.
Put it on the list, Rich.
Definitely.
Yeah.
We got a summer tour we're working on, Coach, so we're gonna put Little Rock on there.
Well, come on, jump on 40. It's not far from where you're at in South Carolina. And I know the exact route, because I drove it from Chapel Hill. You take it about 13 and a half hours,
Yep.
and you stop in Little Rock. We'll put you up. We'll feed you. We'll show you around town, and it'll be a fun time.
Heck yeah. I think I stopped in Little Rock on my way from Colorado to here.
That sounds about right. That's a
Yeah.
that's a pretty good haul.
Yeah.
It's on the list, Coach. We'll get you on the list. We got some other colleges. We're gonna give the cool college wrestling campus tour this summer. So we got you guys on the list for sure.
Let's go.
Yeah, for sure. So Final Four, Coach. First question I have for you is: are you a coffee drinker?
Yes.
How do you brew your coffee and how do you take it?
We my wife grinds our own beans, and we make it right here, and in just a Ninja coffee pot, nothing fancy, and I drink it black, strong and black.
All right. So you say strong and black. Does that mean like a darker bean, or do you like the lighter roast with more caffeine?
Probably probably the lighter roast with more caffeine. I mean,
All right.
I'm not too picky, to be honest with you. I just don't want anything in it.
I
I
hear
don't,
you.
I'll go to Dunkin' and get a couple shots of turbo, no problem. But um, I don't like sugar. I don't like cream. I want it black.
Right on. Respect. Coach, do you have any daily practices or rituals that you do on a regular basis to show up as the strongest version of yourself?
Yes. So I wake up every morning. I read my Bible. This is funny. I hydrate properly, meaning I use some rehydrate, and then I drink my coffee. And then I wake my kids up, and I take them to school every day for the most part when I'm in town. And then I go to work, and that is pretty much what I do every single day that I'm in Little Rock. And if I'm not in Little Rock, I do the first three steps. I just don't take my kids.
You have 4 kids now?
I got six.
6. Dang. Good for you.
Yeah.
Good
Yeah,
for you. You're
yeah.
you're more than halfway on your way to your own wrestling team.
No, man, I think that I've met my match with a basketball team. I promise you that.
Okay. Is there a crossover? I know you said you had one guy doing the club. Is it the same one that plays basketball, or are they different?
So my oldest plays basketball. He's 11. My 9-year-old daughter plays basketball. She's 9. My 6-year-old son wrestles. And then I have a 4-year-old daughter, and I have a 2-year-old daughter, and then I have a 4-month-old son.
Oh man, good on you. You been sleeping much or what?
What's that? I try to sleep.
Dang, good for
Coach,
you.
I'm just curious with your daily Bible reading. Do you have an app that you follow? Do you go in and just open up a page and read that? Do you have certain pages that you read at certain times? I'm just curious. or
Well, I
passages?
think well, two things. I go step or verse by verse with I have several preachers that I listen to, and I basically they expound the Bible, and I go verse by verse with them, and that's the way that I really learn the best. And I usually go one book at a time, and that book is not always necessarily just it's not like a random book, but I try to follow. Like right now, I'm trying to do an Old Testament and then a New Testament, and see where the different things line up and prophecies and different things like that. That's kind of what I'm doing right now. But I think a really great plan that Coach Schreiner, he's the chaplain at North Carolina, really pushed me and challenged me in my faith big time when I was there. Is I think every person should read a proverb a day, and that's something that is there's 31 proverbs, so or 30 proverbs, there's enough for one day of the month. And um it's just it takes you from being a young man or a young woman all the way to being an old man or an old woman, and it kind of walks you the steps of life and gives you a lot of wisdom. And so that's something that I do on a pretty regular basis. Once I get done with a couple books, I'll go back and I'll reread Proverbs over and over for a full month. And it just helps you in a lot of different ways. Number one, like it's about your perspective. Before you read, like you need to take the perspective that God is sovereign over all, and if He's sovereign, I want Him to know more than me. So I got to get into His Word and learn and grow and connect with Him. And so that helps me every single day.
Thank you for sharing that with us. I really appreciate that. And you answered this one a little bit. What are you listening to right now? Music, podcasts, audiobooks? Are you reading anything?
Um, I'm reading my Bible. There's a couple books that I ordered that I really want to read. Um, Kind of maybe a little weird, but they're just like Knowledge of the Holy One, which is another really great biblical book. Um, I listen I listen to talk radio. I listen to preachers on my truck, and then I listen to sermons when I'm at home. That is very much mainly because it is very easy for me to get distracted, and if I start listening to, Waylon Jennings or Johnny Cash, I want to crack open a beer and I want to sit down and have a good time. And so it's more about I listen to the things that bring me value and keep me in the right direction or keep me focused and intentional. I do listen to some podcasts. I think there's a really great leadership podcast that I think everybody should listen to. It's the Craig Groeschel Leadership Podcast. With so much of my program, we implemented so much from that. Every once in a while, I'll go back and re-listen to that, but I try to keep it pretty simple. I turn country music on every once in a while. Um, but I listen to a lot of like Q&As with pastors. I really love hard theological questions. I love that like intense conversation between people, debates. I like listening to that. I know that probably sounds weird and crazy, but those are things that are just really interesting to me.
Coach, curious, this is probably maybe a little bit off topic or maybe diving down into a rabbit hole, but have you ever read the Book of Enoch?
I have not. I have been listening to things about it and just seeing how it doesn't line up with scripture and some of the things in it, but I have not dove into it. That is something that once I have completely done a deep dive into the Bible, I would probably be very, very open to doing. Another one that's very popular is the Book of Thomas and some other ones. But no, I have not read that.
Okay, curious.
And yes, you almost went down a rabbit hole, and I had to control myself.
That's a different podcast.
Yeah.
Coach, last one we have for you. Do you have a guilty pleasure or guilty pleasures? It could be food. Do you like donuts? You mentioned maybe sometimes you listen to some Whalen and crack a beer. Or you like craft beers? Are you a Swiftie?
No, I am a huge Chiefs fan, but I am not a Swiftie. Let's just make something very clear right now. Before we go any further, there is the Chiefs were before Taylor Swift, and the Chiefs are not because of Taylor Swift. I am not a Swiftie. No, I don't really drink beer. I haven't drank alcohol for a while. I'm not saying that I haven't or that I might ever not again, but that's I have a sweet tooth like you wouldn't believe, and we have a joke around my house that when you turn Dad's eating machine on, it's really hard to turn off. So it doesn't matter if it's Oreos or cookies, snacks. I mean, Dr. Pepper, I could be like Forrest Gump and I must have 13, 14 Dr. Peppers. I could be that guy. So I have a huge sweet tooth. It doesn't matter what it is.
Okay. All right.
I feel you. I have a huge sweet tooth myself, so it must be like an old wrestle thing, cutting weight, but I definitely feel you on
Yeah.
that.
So what about you guys? What do you guys listen to? What do you guys read? Am
Um,
I allowed to ask questions on
oh
this?
yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
let's go.
Let's go. I just I actually just finished a book by John L. Parker. He's really known for writing a book about it's called Once a Runner, and it's a fiction book about a college runner. And so this book, Racing the Rain, is like the prequel to Once a Runner. I just finished that. I'm also we just given gifted this book about rhetoric that I started, and then I also have a book by Bob Hoffman. It's called uh, How to Be Strong, Healthy, and Happy. And he's a guy that started York Barbell.
Cool.
He was a World War One veteran, and it was written in 1938. So it's got like a lot of old school, just like physical culture practices and stuff like that. So that's what I'm currently diving into. And then what was it? What else what am I listening to? I listen to pretty much everything. If I'm working out, I like high beats per minute, like dance music, EDM type stuff. Um, I didn't know about what the heck's his name? Drawing a blank. There's a all the cool kids like this new country guy.
Zach Bryan?
No, not Zach Bryant. I can't believe I'm drawing a blank. I had never heard of him until I moved to South Carolina, but now I listen to him a bunch. And then yeah, whatever I let the kids pick songs for the playlist. I teach physical education too, so like I'll let them kind of curate the playlist. And surprisingly, a lot of them are into like a lot of 80s stuff, and some hard rock and heavy metal stuff. So it's been a nice this semester has been a little bit easier on my ears than the first semester.
There you go, coming full circle.
Yeah, definitely.
So I got to be honest, I do all my reading in the source of Audible. I am not a reader, so I listen to all my books, and I have a very eclectic. I'm either listening to some woo-woo spiritual stuff or I'm listening to something on pro wrestling. So as far as the books that I'm looking
Let's
into
go.
or I'm listening to right now, I'm listening to Death of the Territories. It's kind of an autobiography on how the territory system of American professional wrestling, how Vince McMahon kind of killed it all. A book that I'm actually going back and taking notes on. It's the fourth time I'm listening to it, but it's called "Don't Just Sit There, Get Off the Cushion," and it's by a lady named Biet Simpkin, and she practices this system called the Fourth Way, and it's a bunch of different spiritual schools kind of condensed into one, and she has 44 laws that you practice, you do the journaling and stuff. And the first time I listened to it, I got like a 2 week rush. And then, but at the beginning of the book, she was like, you gotta, do this chapter by chapter and kind of go through it and journal with it. So I've been journaling through it through the past 6 months, going back here and there and trying to get all 44 chapters in. The Yoga of Eden is something that I'm listening to. Again, like you, once you get my eating machine on, it's really hard to get me to stop. So I've been trying to eat more mindful and really, slow down and eat. And kind of what you just said before is like if you don't kind of hone or monitor your listening practices, you kind of, you know, your thing is, Johnny Cash and Waylon. My thing is pro wrestling podcast. So I have like all these books that I'm trying to go back and listen to, but the majority of my listening habits is pro wrestling podcasts. I listen to a lot of Eric Bischoff. I listen to there's this guy Conrad Thompson. He's got like a podcast conglomerate. I listen to a lot of that. I listen to Post Wrestling, and then another one I listen to weekly. It's by this guy. We actually had him on the podcast. His name's Marty Leeds. It's a Gnostic Christian church. It's called the Gnostic Christian Academy of Lord Jesus Christ. And he goes and he breaks down all the numerology of all the chapters in the Bible and kind of gives you the meaning of stuff like that. So I listen to that a lot. And then when it comes to music, I am all over the place. It depends what day you catch me on. I listen to a lot of retro wave and a lot of vapor wave kind of music that was the theme to my childhood, whether it be listening to stuff on Nickelodeon. It sounds like stuff from the 90s. And again, I'm all over the place with music, but I listen to a lot of podcasts and a lot of audiobooks right now.
That's awesome. There we go. Pro
Yeah.
wrestling. I got a buddy who's in AEW. He's
Who?
a his name is Dean Alexander, but he just switched characters. He's kind of he's a fill-in, and he's been doing it for a couple years. He's been doing really well. He was in the first Nightmare Factory.
All right.
Um, he was he was like one of two guys to make it out of Nightmare Factory and then go on, and I'm not sure the exact role, but basically he travels from city to city and he helps the main characters, or the main wrestlers, and then he gets put in a lot. And so I think he just switched characters like a week ago, and he's like a traveling preacher now. And so I don't remember his exact name, but he was Dean Alexander before that.
All right, I'll look him up. Yeah, I am Ask Rich. I know way too much about pro wrestling. Like when I told my buddy, because there's some stuff going on right now. Like I know too much about pro wrestling to not be getting paid for it at this point.
There you go. That's
Um,
cool.
Yeah, Coach, thank you for first of all, thanks for asking those questions. We really don't have guests that ask us that stuff, so I appreciate that. And thanks for taking time from your 6 kids and your wife and the wrestling team to chat with the Airey Bros. And I just want to applaud you for doing what you're doing with the program and really getting the program out on the map. Rich and I think it's awesome. Like I said, we've been following since the beginning, more so in the past 2 or 3 years, because you guys are coming up and making stuff happen. Keep it up, and thanks again for your time.
Awesome. I appreciate you guys a lot. If you ever come through Little Rock, I got some gear for you, and we'll get you rocked up. How about that?
Heck yeah, yeah. Be careful what you wish for, coach. You might get a knock on your door one day and it'd be Mutt and Jeff over here.
Oh, well, I appreciate you guys very much. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thanks.
absolutely. Good luck with the rest of the dual season and the Pac-12 season and at the conference championship and at the NCAAs. We'll be rooting for you for sure. Tell Joey we said hi too.
Awesome. I will. You guys have a good night.